The sun dipped low over the Nile, casting a warm, golden hue on the bustling village. The scent of incense mingled with the sounds of ritual chants filling the air. Neferka, a nobleman of Thebes, lay upon his funeral bier. His family gathered around, draped in white linen, their tears mixing with the soft glow of lamplight. The priests murmured the sacred verses, preparing him for his journey to the other side. His body, wrapped in bandages, was adorned with amulets and spells from the Coffin Texts, their inscriptions glowing faintly, promising protection and guidance. In his final moments on earth, Neferka felt a strange calm wash over him. The time had come to leave behind the physical world, a world he had cherished, but which now felt strangely distant. The journey ahead was unknown, yet he knew he would not be alone. The words inscribed upon his coffin would become his companions. The family members placed offerings beside his body, figs, honey, and bread. These, along with the words of the Coffin Texts, would sustain his ka, his life force, as it traversed the uncharted regions of the afterlife. The priests spoke words of power, and Neferka's spirit began its departure, rising above the scene of mourning and into the vastness of the unseen realm. As Neferka drifted away from the earthly realm, he felt an invisible force pulling him upwards, as if he were being carried on the breath of the gods. He could see his family weeping below, their faces blurred by the veil that now separated him from the world of the living. He felt a pang of sadness, but also a sense of inevitability. He was moving towards something greater, something beyond the comprehension of mere mortals. The air around him shimmered with energy, and he found himself passing through a gateway, a portal adorned with ancient hieroglyphs that glowed with a pale blue light. He knew he had entered the Duat, the realm of the dead, where the souls of the departed journeyed to seek eternal life. The chants of the priests still echoed faintly in his ears, a comforting reminder that he was not forgotten. Neferka awoke to darkness, a deep silence enveloping him. Slowly his eyes adjusted, revealing a shimmering landscape, the Duat, the mysterious underworld where gods and monsters roamed. It was a place where the boundaries of reality seemed to bend and twist. Rivers of stars flowed above him, and shifting sands stretched endlessly below. Strange beings, with heads of falcons, jackals, and serpents, watched from the shadows, their eyes glinting with curiosity. Neferka reached for the spells he had memorized from the Coffin Texts. These spells were crucial, as they held the power to protect and guide him through the dangers of the underworld. He knew he must speak them to navigate the perils ahead. "I am he who passes through the secret gates," he whispered, his voice echoing strangely in the still air. As he spoke, the world seemed to respond. The sands parted, revealing a pathway leading deeper into the Duat. Suddenly, a creature with the body of a lion and the head of a cobra slithered before him, its eyes fixed on him with a piercing gaze. In Egyptian mythology, such creatures were often guardians or tests for souls on their journey, representing the trials one must face to prove their worthiness. Fear gripped Neferka, but he summoned the words that had been inscribed on his coffin. "Begone, serpent. I am under the protection of Ra, the great god of the sun." The creature hesitated, then vanished into a cloud of mist, leaving Neferka unharmed. The journey was just beginning, and Neferka could feel the weight of the challenges that lay ahead. Yet, with each step, he felt a sense of purpose, a need to prove himself worthy of the eternal life that awaited him. The path led him through dark caverns and across vast plains lit by an eerie glow. He encountered spirits of the deceased, some wandering aimlessly, others attempting to speak with him, their voices faint and desperate. Neferka kept his focus, knowing that to lose his way would mean becoming one of them, lost and forgotten in the Duat for eternity. He came upon a great gate, guarded by two jackal-headed beings, their eyes glowing in the dim light. These were Anubis's servants, the gatekeepers of the Duat. They crossed their spears in front of him, barring his passage. Neferka felt his heart quicken, but he recalled the words of the Coffin Texts. "I am he who knows the names of the gatekeepers. I am one who is pure." As he spoke, the jackals looked at each other and slowly lowered their spears, allowing him to pass. Neferka stepped through the gate, his resolve growing stronger. The pathway led Neferka to a vast river, its waters dark and foreboding. There was no boat, no visible means of crossing. On the opposite shore, shadowy figures moved, spirits who had failed their trials, forever bound to the banks of the river. Neferka knew he must cross, for the river marked the boundary between the world of the living and the true depths of the Duat. He closed his eyes and began to chant, "O waters, part before me, for I am one who knows the secret names." The river began to churn, and a bridge of light emerged, shimmering above the dark water. Neferka stepped onto the bridge, each footfall causing ripples that illuminated the depths below. As he crossed, whispers rose from the water, voices that spoke of forgotten fears and regrets. Neferka held his focus, reciting the spells that protected him from the allure of the past. Upon reaching the other side, he was confronted by a guardian, a colossal figure with the body of a man and the head of a ram. This was Khnum, one of the divine gatekeepers of the Duat. "Who are you, mortal, to walk the path of the gods?" the guardian demanded, his voice like thunder. Neferka stood tall, his heart steady. He spoke the words of transformation. "I am one who has been reborn. I am the phoenix that rises from the ashes. I am the master of my fate." The guardian studied him for a moment, then nodded, stepping aside to allow Neferka passage. Each trial Neferka faced required him to look inward, to confront his fears, his regrets, and his desires. With each victory, he felt himself changing, no longer merely a man, but something more. He continued his journey, facing numerous trials, labyrinthine corridors filled with traps, monstrous beings seeking to devour his spirit, and illusions meant to lead him astray. At each challenge, Neferka called upon the spells inscribed on his coffin, the words of power that gave him strength and clarity. He realized that these trials were not merely obstacles but lessons, each one revealing a deeper truth about himself. In one chamber, he faced a mirror-like pool that showed him his own reflection, not as he was, but as he could have been, had he given in to fear and greed. The figure in the water was twisted, hollow-eyed, filled with regret. Neferka knelt by the pool and spoke softly. "I acknowledge my flaws, but I am more than my past. I am one who seeks the light." As he spoke, the image in the water faded, replaced by a vision of himself bathed in light, whole and pure. Finally, Neferka arrived at the Hall of Two Truths, the place where all souls were judged. The grand hall was filled with gods: Anubis, the guide of souls; Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing; Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice; and at its center, Osiris, lord of the underworld. The walls were covered in intricate carvings depicting the stories of those who had come before, their triumphs and failures. Neferka was led to the scales of judgment, where his heart would be weighed against the feather of Ma'at. In Egyptian mythology, the feather of Ma'at represented the divine balance. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, placed Neferka's heart on one side of the scale, while Ma'at herself set her feather on the other. Neferka watched, his spirit trembling. He spoke the words of the Coffin Texts. "I have not committed sin against men. I have not oppressed the widow. I have not caused pain. I am pure." The scales wavered, then settled, perfectly balanced. A smile spread across Osiris's face, and he gestured for Neferka to step forward. "You have been found worthy," Osiris proclaimed. "You shall pass into the field of reeds, where the blessed dwell for eternity." The gods around him nodded in approval, and Neferka felt a sense of overwhelming relief. He had faced his past, his fears, and his shortcomings, and had emerged purified. Thoth stepped forward, recording the judgment in his scrolls, his ibis head bobbing slightly as he wrote. Anubis placed a comforting hand on Neferka's shoulder, guiding him towards the next stage of his journey. Neferka felt a warmth envelop him as he stepped forward, a light that seemed to fill every part of his being. He was no longer merely Neferka, the nobleman of Thebes. He was part of something greater. He felt the presence of Ra, the sun god, whose light sustained all life. He felt Hathor, goddess of joy and love, whose laughter brought warmth to the coldest hearts. He felt the wisdom of Thoth and the power of Osiris. He was one with the divine. The transformation was complete. He had shed the limitations of his mortal form, becoming an Aku, a blessed spirit, radiant and eternal. The Coffin Texts had promised this union, and now, standing among the gods, Neferka understood their true meaning. He was no longer bound by fear or doubt. He was a being of light, a guardian of the balance between worlds. He found himself in a celestial boat, sailing alongside Ra. He looked to Ra, whose form was both blinding light and comforting warmth, and knew that he was now part of the eternal cycle, the rising and setting of the sun, the endless dance of creation and rebirth. Hathor appeared beside him, her laughter like the gentle tinkling of bells. She welcomed him with open arms, her eyes filled with love and joy. "You are one of us now, Neferka," she said. "You have earned your place among the stars." Neferka felt tears welling up, not of sadness, but of profound gratitude. He had journeyed through darkness and emerged into the light, transformed and whole. Neferka entered the Field of Reeds, a land of eternal beauty, where the Nile flowed endlessly and the crops grew tall and golden. It was a place of peace, where those who had passed their trials could rest, free from the burdens of the mortal world. Neferka saw familiar faces, friends and family who had gone before him, their spirits radiant and joyful. He walked among them, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of lotus flowers. Here, in the Field of Reeds, there was no pain, no fear, only the eternal harmony of existence. Neferka knew that he had reached the end of his journey, but also the beginning of a new existence, one filled with light, knowledge, and unending joy. He knelt by the banks of the river, his heart full. "I have journeyed through darkness," he whispered, "and found the light." The words of the Coffin Texts echoed in his mind, a reminder of the path he had walked and the wisdom he had gained. Neferka joined his ancestors in the fields, tending to the crops that grew without effort, basking in the warmth of Ra's eternal light. He spoke with those who had gone before him, sharing stories of their journeys, their trials, and their triumphs. The Field of Reeds was not just a place of rest. It was a place of community, of shared joy and eternal connection. One day, as Neferka sat along the banks of the river, he came across a child, an innocent spirit who had recently arrived in the afterlife. The child looked lost, his eyes wide with wonder and confusion. Neferka knelt beside him, offering a gentle smile. "Do not be afraid, little one," he said. "You are safe here. Let me show you the wonders of this land." The child took his hand, and together they walked, Neferka guiding him through the beauty of the Field of Reeds. And so, Neferka, once a nobleman of Thebes, now an eternal spirit, dwelled in the Field of Reeds, his journey complete, his soul at peace, forever united with the divine. The sun rose and set, the stars danced across the sky, and Neferka knew that he was part of it all, an eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a story written in the stars and whispered in the winds of the Duat.